Redditors who quit a steady job to follow a passion. What's your story? What did you leave? What did you start? And how has it turned out? I was a store manager at GameStop. It was terrible. I decided I'd rather make games than sell them. So I quit with no real plan. After about a month of being unemployed, I got a customer service job at Blizzard. Through that job I met J. Allen Brack and decided I wanted to do what he did, producer. Now I work at BioWare as a development manager. Everything went better than expected. That's fantastic. Nearly every manager I had while working at GS had a dream of making games but ended up staying at their job for the security. They were all miserable and I hope they get out like you did someday. I have a friend who worked there with me who quit and started his own retro game store. I think he has 2 locations now in Albuquerque, NM. But he is the only other person I know of who left to make his own way. Hopefully more folks will go find something to do that they really love. I left a job in venture capital to move to LA so my wife could pursue her dream job, being on the team that sends robots to Mars. Since then, I've been trying to build tech companies myself. After a year and a half with no income on my side, my 4th attempt honey is taking off thanks in large part to Reddit. The hardest part of the experience, besides the negative cash flow, is having the conviction to keep at it. Even when filled with self-doubt. Being ready for the inevitable ups and downs is probably the most important thing when you take the leap because there will be days that cushy job your friends have looks pretty nice. Often many of those days in a row. Oh god. You helped make honey? I haven't had a chance to use it yet but the concept is amazing. I love you. Thanks. The response from Reddit has been incredible. After college I worked at Apple Computer's headquarters. In 2008 when the economy tanked I had to get a job at a deli. I worked there for years. While I was there I started making these little films with my flip cam. Then I saved for a $400 Nikon Page 500 so I could make a music video for my band. It turned out really well. So I saved every penny and bought some editing software, some lights, and started doing video jobs on the side. Every morning I would wake up at about 5 AM and tackle the Adobe Classroom in a book series learning After Effects, Premiere, Photoshop and Illustrator. Then I spent 6 months saving for a real camera. The Canon HF-G10. Then, right after the new year, with a nice portfolio of demo work, all done before the sun came up every day, and about $1,000 in the bank, I started working on my own production company full time. I started with low paying jobs but I made sure that every day I was doing something. I did a ton of jobs in my first year and got all my bills paid. I did weddings, birthday parties, tons of music videos, and corporate spots. I even was contracted to work on a few projects for major companies like Chevron and Del Monte. I was able to buy a new camera, the Canon 5D Mark II along with some new audio gear. I created great relationships with my local camera rental place, where I rent all my big lights and extra gear. It's been a year since I quit the deli. I didn't make a ton of money, but I made enough to pay all my bills, get new gear, buy my lady a new MacBook and an engagement ring. I have a business license and have to pay a ton of taxes. But my worst day doing this is still better than my best day at the deli. I quit a cushy consulting job to start my own web design firm. Had everything in place and ready to go. Was really excited. I am now jobless and near broke. Barely keeping up with my bills. Looking for another 9-5 job. Make sure if you do it right and for the right reasons. Make sure you have adequate income and a long-term plan. What are the right reasons? I can't tell whether you're saying you quit for the right reasons or the wrong ones. I'm sorry things ended so badly for you. Web design is a really rough field to break into. It's already so saturated. I think the thing is to make sure your next gig is making enough money before you quit your day job. This might mean working 2 jobs for years, but it's really the only safe way. I quit my full-time job in radio to be a stand-up comic. So far, I've moved back into my mom's place. Work at a grocery store to pay rent. I'm a student at Second City. And so far I've made $40 telling jokes. Hey, can I borrow $20? Only if you give him a funny joke. I've been in IT for 19 years. It was really fun in the early and mid 90s. Before every AOL tard and grandma discovered the interwebs. Before Y2K. Before idiot managers destroyed the enjoyment of technology. I just walked away from a $75k job that was going nowhere. But going well. It provided for my lifestyle. And involved interesting technologies. However, the managers were tools and the customers clueless. I now live at 9,500 feet of elevation at a world-class ski resort. I am making $60 a night tending bar and waiting tables. I eat and drink extremely well. I ski nearly every day. The summer mountain biking is world-class. Yes, I am struggling on the financial side. However, clarity of thought, fitness of body and lack of anger and hatred toward my fellow man make up for the moderate income I was struggling with. 15 years of wage stagnation. Simply not worth it. This sounds awesome to the 20-year-old in me. But if you were in IT for 19 years, that would make you somewhere around 40 years old. How does one support themselves and a retirement plan on $60 a night? Unless you socked away a lot of money from your previous job. Of course. Edit. Since there seems to be a little controversy here, let me explain. There is a middle ground between being a corporate slave who works 80 hours per week and saves every penny for retirement, and blowing all your money on things right now because the world could end tomorrow. It's called compromise. Personally, I don't want to work all my life. I want to have the option to do whatever I want without worrying about money. Hence working and saving a few bucks along the way. But I still go on vacations, have nights out with my friends, and have many of the things that I want. I think that is his retirement plan. I went to art school. Ended up working in IT support for 5 years. It was a fun, interesting, challenging job. And it paid well, allowing me to live up my 20s. A lot of my company's clients were design firms. And so I spent a lot of time around designers. And always felt sad that I didn't make it as an artist or designer. I started teaching myself 3D modeling as part of a side project. And I got pretty good at it. A few years ago I made the jump to working as a freelance 3D modeler. I've found a specific niche within the field, which is modeling vegetation and landscapes. I get a good amount of steady work from landscape architects, city planners, and architecture firms. It's been hard leaving the security of steady paychecks, benefits, paid vacation, etc. I have to supply my own disability, health insurance, and the scariest time is when there's no new projects on the table. Still, I've survived and even thrived over the past 2 years. And so I am starting to feel secure in knowing that more work will show up. The hardest part is that it's all up to me. Every dollar I earn comes from actual hours of work. No more goofing off and still collecting a paycheck. The days are unstructured and I have to make myself do things like not work in PJs until mid-afternoon. I get envious when I see people come home from their jobs and I know that their work is over, while mine is always there. And there's always some project I could work on for a few hours. Client management is a beach as well. I write a lot more emails than I would have expected. That sounds like a really cool line of work. How did you build your client base? Did you have some clients already lined up when you made a jump? I agree, it's awesome getting to do this work. I started by working evenings. And it was really exhausting to work until 3 or 4 AM. Only to have to get up in a few hours to go work at my full-time job. It's a cliche, but it's true that intense sacrifice is necessary at first to achieve your dream. My first client was honestly someone I found off Craigslist. They were looking for a full-time designer. I emailed them my work and said I am not looking to work for you, but would love for you to consider me if you ever need any 3D modeling. They actually emailed me back and I did a few contract jobs for them. Then I started using Ellens.com. And while it was hard to get that first job, I've built up a good steady client base over a few years. I haven't had to look for work in a while. Instead, it comes to me and I can choose which jobs to bid for and which to ignore. Next up, I am looking to expand my client base to larger firms and work with them directly on their design projects. An acquaintance I met worked for a corporate law firm. He was tired of the workload and quit. He went to Alaska to be a fisherman for a year. 2 years ago he opened up a body shop where he converts school buses into RVs and now makes almost as much as he did being a lawyer. Edit. He worked there for 10 years and lived a lifestyle you would expect someone to live that as a teacher. He made upwards of $250k a year after taxes. He used his money to start his business and keep it alive. He calls it his hobby. If you get on a profitable boat, you can be rolling in the dollar sign, but it's hard ass work. Especially crab season. Also, I would love an RV out of a bus. That is such a cool concept. Does he have a website or a before and after picture? I'm a crab fisherman. It's great money. I told my story in an Ask Me Anything a while back, but I'll share it again here. In 2009 I felt like my work was contributing nothing to the world, other than helping some stockholders' dividends increase. So I decided to give up my corporate job of 10 years and go somewhere abroad to work with children. I found a small organization that funds one small orphanage and school in Rwanda. So I offered to volunteer there for 6 months. I donated everything I owned to a battered women's shelter. Pulled out everything from my savings and retirement and headed out to Rwanda. A month after arriving I found the local staff was misusing funds and mistreating the kids. So I wrote back to the donors in the US to inform them of what I was seeing. They asked me if I was willing to take over managing the program. I had no previous experience running an organization, managing people or working with children. But I saw this as an opportunity to really make a small difference in the world. So I accepted. Now, 3 years later, I am the executive director of the project and have been elected to the board of directors. Early in 2010 I met another volunteer from another nearby orphanage. She was from London. We became friends and eventually fell in love. Now we work together running the program and we have nearly 100 children who look at us as their parents. Together we make very little money but we are very happy with our lives. Running an orphanage in Rwanda. Hell, just living here is very hard. The poverty is heartbreaking. The government is difficult to work with and trying to keep our little charity from going under due to lack of funds are all issues that cause endless stress. But seeing one of our boys, who when he came from the streets was filthy, malnourished and hopeless, change into a clean, happy, hopeful child who works his butt off in school is worth every trial and tribulation. TLDR, I gave up a very cozy life to help children in Africa. Met the woman of my dreams there and together we're trying to change the world. One amazing child at a time. Yes, it sounds cheesy, but it's true. Are there any undergrad student opportunities within your organization? I would love to work in an org like this for some small large any period of time. I know you might have already seen this, but for other Redditors who want to volunteer, here's their website home. And here's their volunteer page. Last I checked, they were pretty desperate for donations. So please consider donating. Best comment of the day. My story about quitting without thinking. I worked for a factory back in my hometown for about 3 months. I was told I'd get a raise after 3 months. If I had perfect attendance 3 months comes by, and I had perfect attendance, raise was denied. Won't tell me why. I walked out right after that. I got a call an hour later offering my job back with the raise, so I accept. I go back in and talk to the boss. He made me publicly apologize to the entire company. Then I went to work. I get my first paycheck after quitting, and I still hadn't received my raise. Went to talk to my boss about it. He completely denied the raise. So I quit again, but took it further. I called OSHA. This wasn't a safe place to work and got them fined $50,000. I don't regret it.